What's up, everybody? This is UP Power with Keegan Cooper and Kevin McNulty. Keegan, you just got back from vacation. We are quite literally just sitting down. I haven't seen you in about 10 days or a week. I don't know what it's been. There's been a lot going on, though, so we have a lot to catch up on. But you were in Omaha for a wedding. How was it being back where you
It was good.
spent a year,
It
right?
was good, yeah. Spent a year. It was warm. Played a lot of golf. Watched one of my good friends get married. He tied the knot, so big shout out to Aiden and Maddie.
Yeah,
Congratulations
Aiden and
to them.
Maddie. Woo!
That's always fun, but it was good. Ate at some restaurants that we don't have up here in the UP.
Steak?
Got an
You gotta
Omaha
do
steak.
Got to do steak. I don't know where I heard Nebraska's the beef state.
It's a beef steak.
There's more cows than people.
Yeah, cows and corn.
I think I knew that previously, but I just heard it yesterday. That's why I'm bringing it up. So steak, ribeye, would we?
Ribeye, yep.
Good.
Ribeye. Had some skirt steak tacos, so that was pretty good too.
How are we getting it done?
Medium rare. I
Yes, yes.
usually order it medium because I think restaurants tend to cook it a little less.
That's fair.
So
I'm okay with a
medium rare.
medium. I usually ask medium rare.
Rare, yeah.
You ever heard of the rare plus?
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Nope, neither do I.
I'm not that high end, I guess.
Yep.
But that's okay. Well, time for me to catch you up on
Fair
what
enough.
you missed, and of course, big heavy hitter this weekend. Outside of baseball and softball districts, which we're entertaining as well, we'll be covering a lot of baseball and softball this week as we get into regionals, but the UP track and field finals on Saturday in Kingsford. It was beautiful out there. You see still a little bit of red in my face.
A little sun.
The sun was out. It wasn't hot,
That's nice.
so you didn't, thankfully, have to worry about heat stroke or anything like that. Everyone from 53 schools, you know how it goes, you know the drill.
Yep.
Almost 800 athletes out there. It's a whole event in Kingsford. Shout out to Chris Hartman and company, everyone that puts that thing on.
Yeah.
Because it is a well-oiled machine. They were ahead of schedule all day. Pulled pork in the shed for the media and the like, everyone working. They do an awesome job.
Yeah, they do.
Every single year. And they're ripping up the football field right now, and they're putting turf down. Did you know that?
I did not, but
We will have to do a story later in the summer when it's done.
we'll have to, yeah, that'll be exciting.
We were trying to go through the schools in the UP that have a turf football field. So you've been to a lot of them.
I've been to a lot.
Can you go through the list with me and see if I'm right? And then maybe people will let us know if we're leaving anyone out. Turf Field, Marquette, now Kingsford for 2025. Calumet, yes. People
There we
were
go.
arguing with me about this one.
I've been there though.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never shot a game there, but obviously I've seen footage. So Copper Country, heavy on the turf.
You got it.
Hancock has Finlandia's turf field. So Copper Country, Calumet, Hancock, and Houghton. I know for a fact Houghton has it. So I believe that brings us to 5. Iron Mountain does not,
Nope.
nor Escanaba, Gladstone. The Menominee just renovated their field, but it's still grass.
Still grass, yeah. So you could in turn in a few years maybe.
I'm a grass guy. I'm kind of anti-turf.
Yeah,
I understand why you put it down.
we were talking about this because
Maintenance,
we went to a Storm Chasers game while we were in Omaha, right? And they have a nice stadium, but it's turf. And I said, turf is always that true hop in baseball. When a ground ball gets hit, you're going to get a real bounce. There's no dirt or gravel.
So
on the way.
I wanted to talk college baseball with you as well, being you were in Omaha.
Oh, yeah.
And this weekend, what was the big upset of the regionals was Wright State over Vandy. I don't know if you saw this one, but elimination game. I mean, the winner had to move on to the regional final. Vandy, number 1 overall seed. The tying run is at first base, double in the gap. Run's going to score easily.
Easy.
Ground rule double, turf field, bounce right over the wall.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's what you get for playing on turf, especially baseball.
Yeah.
I don't think you should play on turf. It's fun. I always liked playing on turf because you could slide all over the place and the hops were predictable, but they're springy.
Yeah.
And it cursed Vandy because they were going to tie the game in the 9th. Instead, they left the tying run on 3rd, and they're bounced.
Yeah, I like turf because the idea of it is that, okay, hey, even if it rains, we can, still play.
Right, yeah.
But like you said, a game like that where, that ball on a normal, say, grass, that's hitting the wall, run scores, no ground rule double.
Either you win or you're going to extra innings.
Yeah, so, it's a
I get it for a lot of colleges, too, because the maintenance, again, I have friends working in minor league baseball where there's all grass fields that do not have very good drainage systems, and you're losing a whole series because of it when it rains heavy. So you get that.
Even if you got the tarp crew that rolls it out, if it starts to rain out of nowhere, you're looking at a delay. So
we'll get back to college baseball because I think the NCAA college baseball tournament is the most underrated event yearly in the sports world. And I'm guilty of not watching a ton of college baseball, even though I enjoy it. This weekend, I was pretty locked whenever I could watching those games. Back to track and field finals at Kingsford. You have to start with what the Marquette boys did.
Yeah.
200 points as a team. I believe they medaled to top 3 in every single event on the track, potentially on the field too. The highlights of those 200 points, Michael Couture, senior from Marquette, 14.7 on the pole vault. New UP record by 11 inches. The previous record was 13.8.
Oh, so he didn't just break it. He kind of shattered it.
I said on Saturday he obliterated it.
Yep.
It was the word I used. I think that's accurate. So shout out Michael Couture. Drew Bradley, his teammate, got 14, so he set a new UP record himself. Just didn't get up to 14.7 like Couture did. That was incredible to watch those two go at it. My buddy who runs the pole vault there at the UP Finals, salute to you. You do a great job. That was great for Marquette in the field. The issue with us, with the cameras, everything's going on at once. Can't get to a ton of the field events. So I got to the pole vault and the high jump, kind of those that are in the infield there.
Yep.
So sorry to all the discus and shot put throwers out there. You did a great job. Just didn't get video of you. So Marquette on the track. I mean, you think about Jacob McPhee closing out 2 different relays. And then he won maybe the 400. I'll have to look it up real quick. Just an incredible showing from Marquette, and they win the Division I title. And then the Eastern UP really showed up in Divisions 2 and 3. So for the boys, you had Pickford winning in Division 2 with 127.5 points. For reference, Marquette got to 200.
Yeah.
First time ever maybe in the state. We were talking to their head coach, Derek Marr. He knows that's a record for the UP Finals. And we got to check and see if it's a record, counting the Lower Peninsula Finals as well, because that's extremely impressive. In second place, though, Munising, and I think you saw what happened to their track with the sinkhole or whatever disintegrated on them. So they didn't have a home track to practice on at Munising this spring. I think for the boys, they only sent 7 athletes. And, man, what a showing from the Mustangs to get second with 77.5 points total. Dan Goss is their distance runner, and in all of those events, Trevor Nolan was there getting second right behind him. So it was a great showing from Munising in Division 2. Of course, Pickford, your champs, were terrific as well. And I got to talk about Pickford's John Anderson, Jr., set a new high jump record for Division 2. Wasn't the overall record, but 6'7" on the high jump.
Pretty impressive. Like when you think about how tall 6'7" is, and that's pretty impressive.
So think about you, add 6 inches, and then jumping over that backwards.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive. That was fun to watch. And then in Division 1, Darren Butler from Menominee got 6'4". It wasn't his PR for the season, but that was enough for the UP title in Division 1. And then, like I said, Eastern UP, Newberry showed up to win the D3 title, 84 points. Lakeland and Hubble, 73. They really showed out, boys and girls. The Lakes were very impressive out there. The Axford brothers running the final relay of the day. There were 2 of them. They look identical. They might be identical twins. I don't know for sure. but they look identical, and man, they were hyped to get that one because maybe they thought that could push them over to get the title. That wasn't the case, but a great showing from the Lakes there on Saturday. Then we go to the girls, and in Division I, Marquette, obviously really strong, 109 points, runners-up, but Negaunee. Every single event on the track, it was Negaunee, Sadie Rogers in the hurdles. And Mason Delangelo won the 100-meter sprint, which was Lauren Sundquist's event kind of all year.
Yeah.
And she was great. She had a couple wins. Gladstone came in third as a team. But Negaunee really showed up. Kira Waterman, sophomore, won the 400 and the 800.
Yeah.
So that middle distance was all her. Very impressive showing from Negaunee. Delangelo, I talked to her afterwards. She said, we won it as a team when I was a freshman, and then not for the last 2 years, but they got it when she was a senior. She was really hyped about that. So shout out Coach Krista Squires and the squad there from Negaunee. The minors really showed up. And well, in D2 and 3, Pickford and Newberry again, your champs.
Wow.
So they really showed up. West Iron County, got to shout out the West Iron County girls. They are going to get a UP title in Division II while Bristol Shamian is there. She's a freshman, won a couple events. Her older sister, Danica, set multiple UP records at the finals last year. So West Iron County got her eyes on you. Only 3 points behind Pickford this year to get the runner-up. So same thing with the girls, Lakeland and Hubble, following Newberry with the runner-up. Emily Jokala, who we're going to see on the softball field on Saturday. They are still alive in softball in Division IV. But, the Lakes showed up for both the boys and the girls. But nobody was topping the Marquette boys. Kyler Sager won the long jump again. Didn't hit his PR for this year, which came at the Lions meet. We got video of that. So just very impressive. And like I said, it was a fun day out there. You can't beat that day.
Yeah, I think what I love about the UP Finals at Kingsford is we talk about all these different athletes. Well, we've seen all these different athletes in football, in basketball, in volleyball, sometimes hockey, and now we see them here on the track and field.
A lot of them, like I just said, Emily Jokala playing multiple sports in the spring.
Yeah.
And lettering in multiple sports.
Not an easy thing to do.
Which is very impressive. Let's go back and close the book on tennis and golf, because that was a lot of last week as well. In D1 tennis, we were talking a lot of Marquette. They knock off Negaunee, back-to-back champs. Marquette gets it done for the first time in over a decade. Chase Thompson, who signed with Minnesota Duluth for track and field and cross country last week as well. It was a big week for that kid. Won the individual title in singles. And Marquette dethrones Negaunee. We had a feeling it might go that way when the Sentinels beat them in a duel earlier this season. And sure enough, Negaunee's not going anywhere. They were the runner-up, young team this year. But Marquette got them in 25.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, I was watching it this morning on SportsCenter. It's when you get to the postseason and you're hot. And Marquette was, like we said, Negaunee's not going anywhere. They're going to be back again next year. But it's cool to kind of see that, change passing of the crown. It goes back and forth,
Yeah, and I believe they had won 10 of the last 13, Negaunee.
Nothing short of, they're not short on championships.
Quite a tennis program they are running in Negaunee. In Division II, West Iron County got the doubles championship and the team title. That was Elijah Oberlin and Jackson, if I screw up your first name, Jackson Strom, I believe, won the doubles title. Carson Kinnitz from Munising, we covered a lot in basketball, great basketball player, 6'4", 6'5", big kid, won his 4th straight singles championship in Division II. So another dynasty that Carson Kinnitz was just running by himself. Very cool. From Munising and West Iron County in the D2 championships. In D1 golf, that was a fun day as well. The girls were on Sweetgrass. The boys were on Sage Run. They're both nice courses. I think it's a wash, but Sweetgrass was definitely a challenge for a lot of those girls. as it be for you and I.
Yeah.
Not an easy course, but Escanaba showed up. Camry Scott shot an 80.
Wow.
You know, and there's no touching that on the girls' side. And so Escanaba wins the team title. You know, they had 3 golfers under 100, I believe, which was huge, and that's the reason why Esky won the trophy, and Camry Scott the individual champion for the 2nd straight year. Over at Sage Run, Marquette, because of Bowden Moore, shot a 70. Low man by, I believe, 6 strokes. So his whole team, only one senior on that golf team, too, for Marquette, Caleb Chipolewski, who was the individual champion last year at Great Walls or Heritage. They played one of those courses for the championship last year. So Marquette gets another team title in D1. And then in D3, which was also held on Wednesday before D2 on Friday, Ontonagon and North Central get a few more titles for those schools. And on Friday, I'm trying to remember what happened in the D2 finals. As I look back at how it went down, we had Jerry out there. Oh yeah, Hancock, its 2nd straight boys golf championship. Jackson Sinkowski, I believe, shot a 77. Very good day for him out there. And the Bulldogs got it done. Talk a little baseball and softball coming up this week. Start with baseball because I don't know why the MHSAA does it this way, but baseball regional semifinals are Wednesday, with the regional finals coming on Saturday. Softball is doing both in one day, so regional semis and finals both on Saturday. So we start with baseball. 2 teams left from the UP in Division 4, being Norway and Jeffers, who met in, I believe, this round last year.
Yep. And it
was a great game. I think it was a walk-off from Norway. And they'll have to do it again. They're playing at Felch Field, not very far from them, in Dickinson County. And I think having fresh arms, you would expect Colby to throw, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Are you saving him for Saturday?
You know, that's a difficult choice. It's a difficult choice.
Are you starting Colby on Wednesday? You go up 6 runs, you pull him?
Yep.
So he can get, how many days of rest is Wednesday to Saturday? Only 2 days of rest.
2 days of rest. So he would technically be eligible, I believe.
It depends on the pitch count.
Depends on the pitch count, yep.
If he threw 90 pitches, no.
No. So, you know, maybe you save them. I think what's interesting about that in Division 4 is these 2 teams are the 2 teams that everyone has talked about. And I think Jeffers had a stretch there where they had won like 10 in a row this season.
Yes, they did.
And so, you know, to no one's surprise, you know, when you talk about Division 4 baseball, Norway and Jeffers meet in this round.
Right.
I really think, yeah, I'm with you. Maybe Colby starts. If you get up, you pull him so you can maybe have him for, you know, a couple innings to close things out in the regional final. You know, knowing what is at stake, knowing where they've been, where they went last year.
Yeah.
But maybe also you don't. Maybe you play him a position player and you give you guys your other pitchers a chance to kind of get you through this game. And then, you know, let's say that Norway's pitchers struggle in the first couple innings, Jeffers gets a couple runs, then maybe you put Cole in to kind of come in and shut things down.
Yeah, it's a tough call, right, when it's win or go home.
Yep.
And their best pitcher will be rested enough to go on Wednesday, but is it the right move to use him and lose him for Saturday?
Yep.
I think Jeffers has that question too, but maybe them being the underdogs, I would call them the underdogs in this game. They got to throw Cody Turner, right? Their best pitcher all year, the MVP of the Copper Mountain Conference. They're throwing him, right?
Yeah, you got to throw your best. When you got to throw your best to beat the best, and arguably.
I hope, because we'll be there. I don't necessarily know what Norway has behind by. I know it's better than most. So, what does Norway do? What does Jeffers do? I selfishly hope it's a good pitching matchup, and it's By versus Turner.
Could be.
And they go 5 innings each, and it's a 3-2 game. I really do think it's going to be a low-scoring type type of game like that. That's what it was in the postseason last year. Let's look up that game.
Yeah.
Maybe find out a little bit more about it. So 2024, Norway obviously going all the way to the state title game. And yes, regional semifinal. Jeffers, Norway 4-3. And if I remember correctly, it was a walk-off.
Yeah.
So that was a great game last year. I hope we get a similar deal this time around. Let's move to Division III, where we have two really good teams that are familiar with each other, Negaunee and Gladstone.
Mm-hmm.
Taking each other on in Gladstone. What do you got on that?
Negaunee seems to be in all sports this team that does not quit, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to give you everything they've got for 7 innings. So in Gladstone's terms, it's, hey, we can't make mistakes. We can't beat ourselves. I think Negaunee is a really good, successful team when the other team is beating themselves. So, Gladstone's got to limit the errors. Gladstone's got to limit, stolen bases, any miscues like that on the defensive side. And then when the Braves get a chance and an opportunity, you got to put the ball in play and score some runs, because Negaunee is going to hit the ball. They've got a few guys on their lineup, 1 through 9, that can put the ball in play and make some noise.
Yep.
Negaunee, the same thing, vice versa. You can't beat yourselves. And when you get into the postseason, it is the little things that come down to it. It's, being able to be disciplined at the plate and maybe draw a walk that extends an inning and maybe get a stolen base, maybe make that play.
That's what it is with Negaunee, in my opinion. Watching them a couple times, actually more than anyone else this season, is when they have to, they can manufacture runs. Mm-hmm. And their coach, Jason Seek, I have a lot of respect for, just the way he needs his guys to buy in to that sometimes, and they do, to their credit. And I've shot a couple games that have been close. So with this matchup against a Gladstone team that I maybe didn't think would win the district, but they did. So good for them. They're hovering around 500 on the season, a little bit down from where they were last year. So their coach, Tyler Swanson, deserves a lot of credit too. And they've lost a few guys along the way. Going back to the regular season, these teams played 2 doubleheaders, and Negaunee swept both of them.
Yeah.
Tough to beat a team 5 times.
Yeah, you had to throw that.
Postseason.
Yeah. And you had to throw that scenario in there because, yeah, it is, but at the same time, if Negaunee comes out and they get their foot on the gas, they're not going to let up.
Yeah, I agree. So the final scores here, 17-6, 7-1. Not very close. 11-0, 13-3. The Miners have really had their number all year, and I think Negaunee is the better team here, and they'll maybe approach it like that. Their record's listed as 23-5 on MHSAA, so a very good team. And I don't know who they're going to throw. Watching them a couple times, I don't know if they have like the guy on the mound, a Cole By, Cody Turner, but they have a lot of really good arms.
Yeah.
Even the most recent game I saw from them, they were playing Marquette, and I think Jason threw 4 different arms in that game.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we're going to have a guy go 5-6 innings here. I imagine he'll want a starter to throw on Wednesday, but we will see. That'll be a fun matchup. Jumping up to Division II, Kingsford got the district title.
Did not expect this.
I didn't either, but good for that group.
Yeah.
That has played, 3-4 years of baseball. The Grondins, Trevelyan's, that, we talk about in other sports. Jack Kriegel behind the plate. It's a really good team. And Andres Finley, Pablo, he's had a great season as well. I believe he was a co-player of the year with Garrett Brown, his teammate, in their conference. So, yeah, Kingsford taking down Escanaba. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
because Esky, I thought, was the team in D2. We obviously knew Kingsford was very good as well. And they had that power arm with Lenny Peacock. Yeah. And that didn't matter to Kingsford. They got it done, and they'd been chasing this district title. They got it, but I know they don't want it to end here.
No, Kingsford is, watching them this season, Kingsford has been the team that no matter what the conditions, what the day is, who they're playing, they're out there having fun, giving it all that they have. And I think a lot of times that can carry a team. And obviously, when they met Escanaba, they didn't think twice, Lenny
7-1.
Yeah, Lenny Peacock, phenomenal player, phenomenal pitcher.
Yeah.
Escanaba has a lot of guys that can get it done on the baseball diamond.
Yeah.
But Kingsford comes in and hangs 7 runs and, doesn't think twice, and now they've got Petoskey.
Petoskey's really good.
Yeah.
Looking at their record, 27-5. Played a lot more games.
Yeah.
Just being in Lower Michigan. Not that Petoskey's
That
that far south, but it's a difference. And in their district, they went 5-3 over Gaylord, and then 20-5 over Sheboygan, which is where that game will be played in Sheboygan on Wednesday. So we'll have a team in D4. We'll have a team in D3 from the UP. Kingsford is the hope in Division II. And on the basketball court, which a lot of those guys played basketball as well, they were in a similar scenario where Division II, if you want some UP power, you got to look to Kingsford.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they get that done. Softball, we are in the same round, and let me pull up Division IV, the teams that will be competing this weekend in the regional semifinals and finals.
It is a weird, I'm not the one who chooses it, but both softball games played on the same day, it not only becomes a question of who
It's got to be the pitching, right?
Yeah.
So you can rest some arms for baseball and softball. They don't need to. I actually didn't know that rule until I was out at Escanaba Gladstone a couple weeks ago. Just asked their head coach, Andy Fields, is there any limitations on pitching? No. He referenced a team downstate that's thrown one girl over 300 innings this year.
That's wild.
Which is crazy. So just having a Grayson LaMarche is like gold.
Gold, yeah.
And you can ride that train all the way. I know Esky has aspirations of riding it to East Lansing, and they should, because they're the number 1 team in D2. But we're starting with Division IV, where right over in Ishpeming this Saturday, Lakeland and Hubble will take on Superior Central. I like the Lakes getting their scores all year. They have the pitching, which in Game 1 they usually go Peyton Goldsworthy, who is the Player of the Year in the conference, a freshman, and Emily Jokla. Those are their 2 pitchers, and it suits them well. Superior Central winning the district, very impressive. They have their hands full on Saturday. And then Norway and Bessemer. So Norway's a team, they, just like the baseball team, took down North Dickinson in the district final on Saturday. So big one for all 4 of those teams in D4 in the championship over at Ishpeming, 3 o'clock on Saturday. So we'll move to Division III, where the Gladstone Braves, man, they're feeling it.
Yeah, led by Tia Schoen and company. I mean, Gladstone all year has been a team where you're like, what do you think about the best team in the UP for high school softball? Well, immediately go to Escanaba.
Yep.
And right behind Escanaba, I would argue that, Gladstone has got a place at the top of the UP softball powerhouses.
Absolutely, and I just talked about going to shoot that Esky Gladstone doubleheader at Esky a couple weeks ago, and that was a split, which meant Escanaba won the season series 3-1. They had swept the previous doubleheader, and I think that's appropriate. You think about this Gladstone team, beat Gaylord, which was a huge win in the regular season, and both them and Escanaba were downstate a lot, getting ready for the postseason.
Yeah, which talking to both...
Getting games in.
Talking to both Escanaba's head coach and Gladstone's head coach, when you have aspirations like both of these programs do to make it to East Lansing, heading downstate early in the season to get games in, knowing what the weather conditions are up here.
Norway baseball did it too.
It becomes a crucial part of building a program is, hey, we might have to travel a little bit if we can, as much as we can.
And we've seen, let's stop on that for a moment, that these coaches, baseball and softball, they care about building up programs and reminding folks throughout the state that, we do, I know it snows a lot, but we do play baseball and softball up here. And that's why you get the Cold Weather Baseball Coaches Alliance, which I love that.
I love it.
And they got a cool logo now, so that's Tony Adams from Norway got together with a few other coaches, and they're putting on their first ever All-Star game for high school baseball, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Another All-Star game for us to cover in the month of June.
Yeah.
That's 4 of them. One of them coming up on Thursday for basketball. So that's awesome. These coaches, like you said, they do care about building up these programs. And so the situation in D3 is Gladstone and Negaunee still alive for Saturday, but they're not playing each other. The Braves going up against Grayling, and Negaunee faces Kingsley. All 3 of these games, the 2 semis and the championship. The regional championship will be played at Boyne City High School, so you have to have the Braves and Miners advance for them to face each other on the softball field, as opposed to baseball on Wednesday. They are meeting. So what do you think? Does Negaunee get it done against Kingsley? Let's look at their record. Negaunee, a team we know is good. Kingsley's only played 22 games. They're 14-8. Checking out Negaunee's record, every year they're right around 500. So understandable that maybe they slipped through the cracks of our coverage a little bit, although we did get out to a couple games. That would be fun to get a regional final between Negaunee and Gladstone.
Yeah.
A couple days after their baseball teams meet.
Yeah.
So we will see, and let's check out the road for Escanaba. As I mentioned, they're the number 1 team in Division II, and that is not by accident. This team all season long, we've seen it, how good they are and how good they can be, and it starts with Grayson LaMarche.
It does, and what she's able to do in the circle, but also just being a leader on that team. When we've seen now for 2-3 years Grayson LaMarche grow not only as a player and a pitcher, but as a leader on that team, as a voice on that team. And then, when you strike out 15 people a game, that's going to help your chances of winning. She's not a...
And it legitimately is. I would love the number of strikeouts per game that she starts.
It's at least double digits.
I was going to say that as well. Yeah. It's in the double digits. And the district final, she throws a perfect game with 16 strikeouts. 21 up, 21 down. And when you throw a perfect game, your fielders deserve credit too. They did a great job behind her. Obviously, they only had to make 5 outs, but they did it.
And when you think of in terms of a perfect game, those 5 outs are crucial. Because if you don't get those,
absolutely. Well, Escanaba only scored 3 runs at the plate, so they absolutely needed a nails pitching performance from LaMarche, and they got it. I mean, a perfect game. It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, I mean, and when we talk about LaMarche, like, you're not a University of Michigan commit without being as dominant as she is.
She's different. Yeah. You just look out on the field, and you're like, oh, that's a tremendous player, and probably a college player, and sure enough, it's a Big Ten softball player, Grayson LaMarche. She's fantastic, and she's only going to get better because even when I was out doing that spotlight on her, she's working on a changeup and all those things. Like, she has not reached her potential, which is scary.
Which is I wouldn't get in the box. No way. No way.
Absolutely not. Those things are fired.
Yeah, she's not messing around when she gets in the circle.
And like I said, changeup. Like, that'll throw you up. In the dirt, I'm chasing.
Yeah.
Strike 3, get out.
Strike 3, get out.
Yeah. Grab some bench. That's seriously. And then watching the Women's College World Series, let's go there. Yeah. Women's College World Series, yesterday, on Monday. Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
4-time defending champions. Yeah. And they pull another rabbit out of their hat because they did this in the regionals or super regionals, where they had a home run to win the game. And they didn't score the entire game against Texas Tech. This is in Oklahoma City. This is the semifinals, the elimination game. Didn't score all game down to their last strike, run around first, and 2-run bomb, and you tie it. If you're Texas Tech, you're like, no way. We were just about to go to the first national championship in the history of our program, and Oklahoma does it again. Credit to them. They keep it tied. It goes to extras, sac fly to walk it off. They're the home team, and it's just elation, guns up, Raiders. That was a crazy moment. Just to have the team that is the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport. Probably one of the greatest dynasties in college sports this century.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Off
yeah.
the top of my
I
head.
wouldn't argue with it.
Alabama football. There you go. That's the only analogy you need for Oklahoma softball equals Alabama football from 2015 to 2020.
Yeah.
Okay? Just an incredible program. They tie it, and it's all Boomer Sooner in Oklahoma City, and Texas Tech's like, ugh. But then they get it done. They win it, and they're moving on to play Texas. So it's Texas versus Texas Tech in the national championship, both seeking their first ever national championship. Best 2 of 3. I'm very excited. Very excited for that series.
Should be fun.
College baseball, I'm going to have to pull up a graphic to see where we're at because the super regionals are set.
Yeah, I was back in Omaha this week, so watching a lot of Nebraska.
Yeah, what's it
and
like? Is
Creighton.
there any build-up to the College World Series?
think there
Obviously,
is.
that's about a week from now
No.
that we'll have that and be set with the 8 teams
Yeah.
for Omaha. I've never been. You covered College World Series,
covered,
right?
yeah.
So what's the build-up and people getting excited? I know the Big Ten tournament is there every year. They do a great job with that.
Yeah.
I have good memories of the Big Ten baseball tournament from my senior year. Maryland won it. What's it like in Omaha?
I think it's a lot of
year?
prep for the city of Omaha when you think about downtown and Charles Schwab Field. We went there and took the tour, and it's, getting the parking lots ready and getting the booths ready and hotels and restaurants being ready. We were, having lunch at a place downtown, and the guy was like, they were unloading pallets and pallets of just,
Jello shots?
Yeah. Have you heard about that?
What's the name of the bar?
Oh gosh, I'm blanking, but I'm blanking on the Omaha.
I can Google Jello shot challenge.
Yeah. But if
College
LSU
World
is there, they
Series.
always break the. They broke the record.
Which they
shattered
might.
it, which they might be. But yeah, a lot of preparation. I think it's it's so unique to be in downtown Omaha, Old Market area. Charles Schwab Field is in your backyard.
Yeah.
And these 8 teams come together for a week and a half of some of the best the best college baseball you're going to see.
It's fantastic. I love Rocco's. So this is 2024, last year, Florida State. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They cleaned up 1,400 Jello shots. I assume this was the final total. Beating out 480 for Virginia. And that's not even in order. North Carolina, 2,100 Jello shots. Anyway, it's a bar in Omaha called Rocco's. You been there?
I have been to Rocco's, not during the Jello shot war, but
Teammates,
other ways.
First time ever in program history that they have at least.
We're getting some.
Now we're getting highlights from.
highlights.
That was a crazy game last night. So I mentioned LSU playing an elimination game at home in Baton Rouge. The place is nuts on a Monday night.
It's going crazy.
The jungle when Little Rock is there, who was 19-32 in the regular season, on the brink of the Super Regionals,
Which is wild.
and they had a 5-1 lead, and LSU can hit.
LSU said no.
They ended up putting up 10+ runs. So that was almost an upset. Instead, you have LSU moving on to the Supers. And I mentioned the big upset of regional weekend was Wright State taking down Vandy, the #1 overall seed, which, if you remember, in the softball tournament, Texas A&M was the #1 overall seed, got bounced in the regionals. First time ever both #1 seeds didn't go to the Supers, and it's the first time ever in the baseball tournament that the top overall seed didn't get to a regional final, which was the case for Vandy. The other crazy game last night, elimination game, regional final, Murray State and Ole Miss. Did you catch any of that?
I caught a little bit of that.
Ole Miss was going bananas because it was 12-3, I believe, going into the 8th inning.
Mm-hmm.
And Ole Miss comes back and makes it 12-11, and that's your final score. It was a 3-run bomb to get the 9th, 10th, and 11th runs home, and then Ole Miss had nothing left. Isaac Humphrey on Ole Miss is a guy that when I was working on Cape Cod, the Cape League, in 2022, he was there, and he's my age, so he's in his 6th year of college baseball playing at Ole Miss. His career just ended, unfortunately. But he's a journeyman of college baseball, and you see that a lot, in football and basketball over the last couple of years. Guys playing 5-6 years at 2-3 different schools, which I don't support all that much. But like I said, he was a journeyman in college baseball.
Been around the block.
Looking ahead to the Supers, Miami at Louisville.
I like Louisville.
Well, they're hosting. I think that makes a difference.
I think at this point.
But Miami was on the road for their regional and came out of it. They get that at home quite a bit. Corvallis, Florida State and Oregon State.
Great series.
That's fun.
Did you see the? I'm jumping.
Just 2 historic programs. And Oregon State's been really back on the wagon the last couple of years. I think it's their 3rd Super in the last 4 years.
Yeah. You see Florida's coach being really upset with Coastal Carolina and the staff.
Yeah, do we want to get into that? Because Kevin O'Sullivan is the manager at Florida. What's his deal? Chill out, man.
Yeah.
It was the head coach of Florida going off on the site rep at Coastal Carolina, who was the regional host, because the first pitch got moved like an hour. And remember, there's 4 teams there, so there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
He laid into the site rep. I guess
The field crew
and the manager for Coastal Carolina and Coastal's coach after the game was not happy.
It's not having it.
And this is like a great coach. They were in Omaha last year with Kaggs, who's making his debut today, by the way, for the Kansas City Royals. But the great program, and like this guy that shows up to Coastal and acts like he runs the joint didn't go over very well.
Yeah, it was not received well, and I think that's.
And I get it.
There's a line, right? And I mean, you see it in professional baseball, you see it in college baseball. You're allowed to be upset, but you're not allowed to act like that. So what? The game got pushed back.
Yeah, and that's what Coastal's coach was saying.
And it's
that's like so be it. You're not in charge.
Yeah.
If you wanted to be in charge,
win the right to host.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly right. So I don't like, think about Danny Hurley and the UConn staff going after our boy Joey Ellis a couple months ago.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar.
Yeah.
You're not in charge, and you have to be accountable for the things you do.
And the things you say.
And maybe he thought the cameras weren't rolling,
Cameras
the
are
ESPN
always
cameras. They were.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to tell that grounds crew guy in Detroit, did you see? He went down and then flipped the bird at the camera. It's like, guy, they're on live TV. They have to show why the game isn't going on.
Yeah.
So similar deal. Like, act like that. You got to be accountable.
You can be upset. You can be frustrated.
But sure.
You don't have to. You don't have to show out like that.
Yeah, and try to embarrass everyone.
And because now it's not just.
I agree.
Now it's national news, right? Everybody's heard about it. It's all over Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And, it's a coach that's well respected in a program that's well respected.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And he behaved like a child.
Yeah.
And is now getting dragged through the mud a little bit. Probably deservedly so. Chapel Hill Super, Arizona at North Carolina. Great basketball matchup. The Caleb Love game.
They put it.
North Carolina can win the whole thing.
Yeah.
They're the 5th overall seed. I think they're going to Omaha, especially being at home.
Omaha.
Have Arizona traveling across the country. Yeah. Auburn, obviously, it's a lot of heavy SEC. Coastal came out of that region, so they're going to play at Auburn.
13 SEC teams? No, maybe
something
not
like
13.
that. They actually didn't perform overall that well in the regionals, but still, you look at the Supers here, and it's like a bunch. Almost every Super has an SEC team. That was another upset. UTSA over Texas. Yeah. So the flagship school loses to one of the satellite schools, whatever you want to call it, for UT. UTSA moving on to take on UCLA, which won its regional just like real quick.
Yeah, quick and easy.
Went 2-0. I know Arizona State was in that regional, but UCLA's moving on. And then Durham, because Duke is really good. So that's where Murray State's going after taking down Ole Miss, going to play in Durham. Baton Rouge, I mentioned, LSU just skated by Little Rock last night. They're hosting West Virginia. And then Fayetteville, this is the one I'm looking forward to. It's SEC versus SEC. Defending champ Tennessee, top 16 team. They hosted this past weekend. Going to number 3 Arkansas.
Great series. It'll be a great series.
Woo pig. Like those
yeah.
people are going to be well lubricated and fired up, man.
Yeah.
So
It'll be wild.
should be a great weekend of college baseball. This is when I lock in. It only lasts a couple weeks before they go to Omaha, and we get to see
Sadly,
who's the
Michigan.
champ. Tennessee, could they go back-to-back? I'm going to pick North Carolina because I like their colors.
Pick North Carolina.
You got a pick right now from the 16 teams left?
Give me LSU. I don't know why, man. But if they get to Omaha,
I don't doubt it.
if they get to Omaha.
2 years ago when they had Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens, I don't think they have that.
No, they don't have that. But
Yeah, they definitely don't have
Yeah,
Paul
they have
Skeens.
Skeens.
I'll tell you, Tennessee could really go back-to-back. That arm that they have in Liam Doyle, watching him last night,
Dog.
he was pumping 97, 99,
yeah.
fired up.
Yeah, I'm pumping
He
97.
sprinted, he got out of the 8th. I think he started game 1 of the regional and then was able to come out of the pen to close down their final game in the regional final. And just electric factory.
97, 98, 99.
Yeah.
Catch him touching 100.
Just a
in the
guy
Super.
that's built, and like I said, he was pumping it in there. So that was fun to watch. Should we switch gears to Major League Baseball? Because we have to talk about the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, let's do it.
First team to 40 wins.
Man, they are just. Isn't it crazy how, I don't even know, less than, 3 years ago, no one's talking about Detroit? 4 years ago?
Well, they had the number 1 pick 2 years in a row when they went Casey Mize, Spencer Torkelson, and that it looked like they made so many mistakes.
Yeah.
And that it was never going to work with this group. Not that Skubal was a hyped-up guy, but it took him a couple years to get to where he is now. The Javi Baez trade. It's like, what are we doing with this guy? He's so washed. He cannot play. He's not the same guy that was in Chicago. This year, that's not true.
That's not true.
Spencer Torkelson, number 1 overall pick. We had to send him to Toledo last year. This isn't working out. Casey Mize is never going to be a front of the rotation guy for us. And now in 2025, it's all like this. Yeah. And Riley Green should start in the All-Star game, playing tremendous outfield and batting cleanup for this lineup that is just raking. Last night they put up 13 runs on the White Sox. The White Sox threw their best pitcher. And Kerry Carpenter, first Tigers player to hit 3 homers in a game since Victor Martinez in 2016. It feels like Tigers are back because I do remember a time being a fan of the White Sox when Miguel Cabrera and Victor Martinez would show up, and you're just like, we're not winning this game.
We're not winning this one, yeah. And
2012 when they were in the World Series.
seeing what Skubal has done.
And the pitching of those days of Verlander, Scherzer, Porcello.
Remind me of,
And
Verlander's on the mound, nobody's winning.
What do they need? Ben, what do they need at the deadline?
Yeah.
How does this team become
Better?
I don't think you can call them the favorite for the World Series because the Dodgers still exist, but right now they are. They're the best team in baseball. In the American League, it's like, yeah, you could see the Yankees giving them a run, but they don't have Garrett Cole. We have Tarek Skubal.
Do you almost need another ace in the hole? Do you need another Terry
I don't know because their pitching staff outside of Skubal has been good too.
Yeah.
Flaherty last night.
Who is the worst?
Kyder Montero's had.
Who's the
some
worst
good
batting average
starts.
on the Tigers? Who's hitting the worst?
What are you ready to ship them off?
No, I'm just, when you think
No,
about
their lineup top to bottom. Kerry Carpenter's leading them in average, and he's got 13 bombs. And Torque's got 14 bombs and 42 RBIs. It's June 3rd.
let's go get Aaron Judge.
Torres is on base at almost 40%, and Riley Green's leading them in hits. I mean, you look at their leaders, and they're spread across the board.
Yeah, so I don't know.
They're just a really well put together team. Even the guys that don't play every day would be major impact players on other teams across the league. So they're just really impressive. I'm talking Jace Young and Andy Ibanez, these guys that are kind of platooning for them. They're darn good. And Wencel Perez is back, went yard last night as well. So I think in the American League they should be the favorite right there with the New York Yankees. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of incredible to think about it. Detroit, I think Detroit sports in general have just...
And the fact that you had 4 teams in the Central, they're all still really good.
Yeah.
But coming into this season, it's like, who's the favorite to win the division?
And
It's not even close. They have a 6.5 game lead over Cleveland right now.
yeah, and you're...
So you do have the 4 teams above 500, but those other 3, Cleveland, Kansas City, and Minnesota, they're going to be fighting for a wild card spot. As it stands right now, I don't think the Tigers slow down enough.
No, I mean, you're what, 83 games?
6.5 game, obviously, over the course of the next 3.5 months, a 6.5 game lead could disappear. But I don't see the Tigers slowing down that much.
No, because you're what? They played, what, 61
They're
games?
probably not, they're pacing for over 100 wins. I don't know if they'll get there, but still, they shouldn't have to win the division and stay away from that best of 3. That's huge. Absolutely huge to win your division and not be in the wild card round.
Yeah.
Because you could lose 2 out of 3. The Brewers were better than the Mets last year by my estimation. They lost 3. Pete Alonso showed up and went yabo. So I don't know. It's the Tigers division right now, kind of the Tigers league. But it's June. That doesn't really matter right now. Just keep winning ball games. Winning ball games is what the Brewers have been doing over the last 8 games. They're 8 for the last 8. They're now 5 games over 500, squarely in the mix in the NL wild card, which, as I just described with the Tigers, I think the Cubs, with their 4-game lead right now, I don't see the Cubs slowing down that much.
No.
People talking about Cubs-Tigers World Series 1945. I'm out on that.
No.
But yeah, they're a really good team. So Milwaukee might not be able to catch them, but Yelich now up to 13 bombs on the year. Sal Frelick, I think, is my favorite player in Major League Baseball.
They're starting to put it together, which
He's the man out there in right field. He was a Gold Glover last year as a rookie. He runs the bases. He just plays hard. Boston College guy. He played college baseball. Love him. And to see Yelly at age 33, he's dealt with a lot of injuries. Obviously, he's now, 5-6 years removed from his MVP 6 years ago in 2019. But he's playing really well. He's not really hitting for average, but if you can get that guy to hit 35 homers like he's pacing to, you're not going to complain.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
You're okay with what you're paying him and everything along those lines. And we didn't leave much time to talk about the NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs, but we are here, the finals. We don't have that many teams to talk about. Start with the NBA. Pacers, Thunder. Should have bet that before the playoffs, that the Pacers would go to the NBA Finals. If you told me that 6 weeks ago, I'd say, what happened to Cleveland? What happened to Boston? They must have had horrible injuries that prevented them from moving on to even the conference finals.
No.
Sure, Jason Tatum's out for all of next year, but the Celtics were already down 3-1 in that series.
Yeah, I mean, those teams just met
With New York.
Tyrese Halliburton.
So the Pacers, we'll get to the Thunder. They're the best team. They're the favorites in the finals. They're minus 700 to win the NBA Finals, which is a just crazy number. Crazy number, but I think they've earned it now playing a 4 seed in the finals. It makes sense. But the Pacers, 6 games with the Knicks, and the Knicks are always going to think back to game 1, right?
Yeah.
Where Halliburton hit the 3 that wasn't a 3, but went up off the rim to the rafters and then back down. And they stole that game from New York, right? Because they had it won. They were up 10 in the final minute. It's just It never happened. So the Knicks had to win 5 games. And after such a deflating loss in Game 1, they dropped Game 2. It's like the series isn't over, especially after, they come out in Game 3 and get the win. But just the Pacers and the pace, ironically, no pun intended, the pace that the Pacers play at is unlike any other team in the league. And guys who have played in the league and analyzed the sport for a living say that they've never seen anyone control the game like Tyrese Halliburton does since Steve Nash did in the 2000s when he won back-to-back MVPs. So what Halliburton does to facilitate, and listening to Mark Daigneault, the head coach of the Thunder, talk about Halliburton and how they're getting ready for him is like he can score too. I mean, he had that bad game.
Game 4?
Yeah, the Game 5.
Game 5.
He was terrible. Game 4 was when he had 35-point
yeah.
triple-double with 0 turnovers. So he needs to be Game 4 and not Game 5, Halliburton. But what Daigneault was saying is that he can score too, and that's why he's such a threat passing the ball.
Yeah.
Because if he wasn't scoring like that, then he wouldn't have so much success facilitating. But he does. And, he's their star. And he didn't even win the conference final MVP. That went to Pascal Siakam, who brings championship pedigree from Toronto in 2019. He's huge. And probably second fiddle to Kawhi on that team. At least for a forward, he was the guy in that series along with Marc Gasol. That was a crazy run that they went on in Toronto. But Siakam, he had the Game 2, he had 39 points. So they're deep, and that's why I think they beat the Knicks ultimately, is that the Knicks were Brunson, Cat played great in Game 5, but his interior defense is terrible. Yeah. And I think that doomed Minnesota last year, really hurt the Knicks in this series with Siakam and Miles Turner, who's been in Indiana for 10 years, by the way. I know Pistons fans and Bucks fans, for that matter, hate the Pacers. Even being a Bulls fan, the Bulls stink so much, I couldn't care enough. I'm pulling for the Pacers because I think they're fun. They're deep, and they bring guys off the bench. Ben Shepherd played terrific defense, and obviously the Thunder play the best defense in the league, maybe the best defense in the NBA this century. But the Pacers played darn good defense too, and they, guys off the bench, and the Aaron Nesmith in Game 1 of the conference finals. You got a guy that can do that, and they can shoot it, and Halliburton gets him the ball. They're not going to go down easy. And Nembhard, Gonzaga guy who starts for him, he played pretty terribly for most of the conference finals. Until Game 6, he had a good game. So with the defense they play and how they have to hang on to the ball. Yeah. That's why I said that Game 4, Halliburton, if you turn the ball over against the Thunder, you're doomed. So you have Halliburton, who's clicking with all the guys on the floor offensively, as well as he was in the series with the Knicks. They have a chance. If they defend well, too, they have a chance.
Does the pace that Indiana plays at kind of play into Oklahoma City? Because the Thunder can get up and down just like the best of them. So does that kind of – do you want, if you're
go ahead.
Do you want, if you're the head coach of Oklahoma City – and, the Pacers are coming in, we want to play up and down because we know that we can play just as fast, if not faster. Does it become a competition of who turns the ball over less?
Yes. I think yes, in a way, because the Thunder are really at their best, and people like to complain about this fact, is when Shea's getting to the free throw line and they're able to come down and set their defense, and they're picking you up 94 feet. It's like the Pistons played terrific defense, and they did this a lot this year, where they're picking you up in the backcourt, and they're making life hell for all that distance to get to the basket. So Halliburton's going to have to pass from half court, and that's going to be tough. And they can't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
So
you're saying
the Thunder don't have to do much to have success in this series, just with all the guys that they have. Caruso and Lou Dort Lou Dort's going to be guarding Halliburton a lot. And he's probably going to do a really good job because he's a terrific defender. And watching Caruso, you go back to Game 7 of the semifinals with Denver, and he was all over Jokic, all over him. He said that was the most physically tired he's been in the playoffs, is him guarding Jokic. But they play with that intensity, and Caruso's the best in the world at fighting over screens.
Yeah.
They don't switch everything. They will when it's called for, but Caruso's fighting over every single screen.
Yeah.
And he makes himself almost invisible where he's on the ball handler like glue, and it's so impressive to watch. You had Rick Pitino all year saying, I was showing my guys film of the Thunder's defense. And that's how it's their calling card. And I think people don't love the Thunder as a team because that is their calling card, and it's not flashy. And even though Shea won the scoring title and the MVP, and the conference finals MVP, potentially the finals MVP, like an all-time season from him, I don't think he moves the needle because, well, the fact that he gets the free throw line so much, and that's part of his game. That's part of what has made him an MVP. And the fact that they're not flashy because they're playing great defense and shutting teams down, slowing the game down. Like I said, I think the best recipe for the Thunder, and they could play not their best game and win. I don't think the Pacers can play not their best game and win. That's the difference. But if they're getting the free throw line, SGA in particular, and they're able to set their defense and get on the ball early and create turnovers, get fast break layups, that's the recipe where Indiana cannot beat them.
You could be talking.
And they're deep too, so the Pacers' depth was a huge advantage in the Knicks series, who could really only play 7 guys, even though Tibbs went deeper into the bench as the series went on. The Thunder are even deeper.
They're playing 10.
My guy Aaron Wiggins doesn't even play that much, and he could be a 20-point-a-night guy a lot of places in the league.
Yeah.
Isaiah Joe had the most threes on the Thunder this year. I read that fact yesterday. I'm like, what? That cannot be. But he did. And Shea's mid-range game is elite. And Chet really stepped up. And I didn't even mention Jalen Williams is the really pure number 2 to SGA. They're such a good team. They won 68 games in the regular season. They've won 80 now total this year. They're like in the conversation of great, great teams of all time. And that's why I think they're going to close it out. But the Pacers do have a chance, and I'll be rooting for them.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Because I like the underdog.
Yep. Fair.
So, hockey, briefly, before we get out of here.
Give me the Oilers in 5.
In 5? No.
No? You think 7?
I wanted to go 7 again.
I think it'll be great if
that was
go
fun
7.
last year.
It was. I don't know if
well, the Panthers went up 3-0, remember?
Yeah.
And then 3 straight from Edmonton, and finally. Did they win that in Florida? I think they did. I think they did.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great series. That starts Wednesday night. Super, very much looking forward to it. I'm kind of torn. I want McDavid to get one, and he'll get one. I'm leaning towards them because of that fact. He's the best player in the world, and these guys beat him last year.
Yeah.
And like, how long are Draisaitl and McDavid going to be together?
Not very.
Not forever.
Yeah.
You know, you have guys that play together for a really long time. You know, Crosby, Malkin. You know, Kane and Taves. But it doesn't last forever. And if you're there right now, get it done. Did you see that goal that McDavid scored in the clincher over Dallas? Where he's just going full speed. Goal.
Yeah.
It was incredible. He's Grayson LaMarche out there. He's different. You just look and you're like,
that guy.
and he's the best player in the world. And Florida was playing so well in the conference finals.
Yeah.
Give me the Oilers in 7.
Okay. Yeah.
I do want to see Canada get one. I think it should be the Oilers with McDavid to finally end that 32 years.
Yeah.
That drought since '93 when the Canadians won it. I just want another great series, but The defense and goaltending from Edmonton is what would scare me.
Fair, I agree.
Because Skinner's really turned it on, and they've won 12 of their last 14. So they lost the first 2 games to the Kings in the first round, and they're 12-2 since then. So they've really rectified a lot of their defensive issues, and that's why they're here.
Yeah.
Florida, just top to bottom, they're well-rounded.
Yeah. Their power play is...
Bobrovsky is great. They have the goaltending advantage.
Yeah.
So
Florida's power play is probably a little bit better than Edmonton's.
Yeah.
Just the way they move the puck.
And they added Marchand.
Yeah.
You know, that's just a guy who's gonna fight you if he needs to, and did it for so long in Boston, won a cup there. I don't know.
Are you expecting like shootout, like high scoring?
And it's a toss-up. I mentioned minus 700 for the Thunder to beat the Pacers. This is basically a pick'em series.
Yeah.
Essentially even odds for the Panthers and Oilers. That's what makes it a little more fun. I think you get that a little bit more in hockey, whereas we have no idea what's going to happen versus the NBA Finals. Although that was true for the Pacers-Knicks series, that those odds were probably close to even heading into that series for the finals. It's just not, and those matchups are more common in the NBA than the Stanley Cup final we got, where it's a rematch of last year, and we don't know who's going to win.
We don't know.
The Oilers have McDavid. Panthers probably have the better team. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
Oilers in 7.
Oh, so I like it.
All right. Fun podcast. We'll be back next week. Recap regionals from baseball and softball. Much, much more as we continue on through the summer and our All-Star games. It's All-Star month, the month of June. So for King Cooper, I'm Kevin McNulty. Thanks for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.